devil. I'm the D-E, I'm the D-E-V-I, I'm the D-E, I'm the D-E-V-I, I'm the D-E, I'm the D-E-V, I'm the D-E-V-I-L. I'm the D-E, I'm the D-E-V-I, I'm the D-E, I'm the D-E-V-I, I'm the D-E, I'm the D-E-V, I'm the D-E-V-I-L, the devil.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to the final word with your boy MattyB on the call on the It's a Wrap Sports Network on this lovely Thursday, March the 6th, 2025. And it's great to be back. Our final broadcast episode of a crazy week that saw me start down in Alabama and end here. And we got a great show tonight, I think. I think we got a good show. We're going to get kind of deep in some things, as the title of the episode states, reality or expectation versus reality, because we seem to find ourselves these days awash in expectation, but not necessarily dealing with reality. And we're going to try to unpeel the layers of expectations versus reality as it pertains to your Philadelphia sports teams, because all four of them have certain expectations placed upon them, and all four of them are also suffering through certain realities that we have to address. So we're going to get into some expectation versus reality. We're going to give a little Flyers update, but not just a little bit, because tonight, right after this program, or I should say right after the Flyers game, because they are in action right as we speak, they're playing the Winnipeg Jets. But right after that, Sal, our boy Sal, will have you for Clear of the Ice, so he'll be able to get into a deeper dive of the X's and O's of the Flyers on the eve of the trade deadline in the National Hockey League. And tomorrow we'll know exactly what the Flyers' plan is for the rest of the season. Are they all in for an attempted playoff run, or are they staying the course and through the rebuild by making trades and selling off pieces of the team, much like they did last year? And I remind you that last year at the trade deadline, the Flyers were the 6th seed in the Eastern Conference. They were already locked into a playoff spot. They were having a more successful season up to this point than they are at this point, at this actual time of the season. So why would they deviate? That's basically my point here. And we'll have to wait and see, though, what the Flyers decide to do tomorrow. When we get into the Flyers, we're also going to get into baseball cards tonight. Yeah, I know. I do a card review segment at the end of the show, but there's a very special thing occurring right now as we speak in the world of baseball cards, and I want to get into it because I think it's extremely important, and the story around it to me is absolutely amazing. So we'll get into that, the other night segment, and of course our card review as well. And to boot, I will reveal my all-time Flyer goalies. We have come to the end of the all-time Flyer roster, and it's up to the goalies tonight, as I will reveal the two goalies, because we always got to go with two. You got to have two goalies on a team because you got to have a backup. And I know that neither one of these individuals would ever serve in life as a backup, but on my team, one of them is going to be the backup. So we'll get into that, and we'll just have some fun tonight with generalized stuff as we roll through our final broadcast episode of this week. And before we continue on, I just want to remind you that this show, as well as everything else on this network, that is about to kind of grow. I mean, we're about to extend our show worth by at least two very soon. But it's brought to you by the good folks here at the It's a Wrap Sports Network, and for all they do, this bud's for you. That's probably going to get in trouble for saying that. Is that even a thing anymore? Can I rebrand that? Does Budweiser copyright that? Is that a thing? Got to get my legal department on that to figure that out. First of all, I got to find a legal department, then I'll have to get them on it. But my point is, help us out. Little like, little subscribe, a little share, a little ring the bell, all those great things that we would love to have happen to get this network up and rolling into different heights. So let's get it started. Let's get strapped in. Let's get strapped on. Let's keep those hands and those feet inside the car at all times. And here we go. Your day in Philadelphia sports history. We kick off every show with your day in Philadelphia sports history, and we don't shy away from the random facts. So we're going to go all the way back to 1907 for tonight's day in Philadelphia sports history. That's right, 1907, over 100 years ago for the nugget in sports history in Philadelphia. Former Phillies owners A.J. Reach and John Rogers were formally acquitted on this day back in 1907 of damages resulting in the Baker Bowl bleacher collapse in 1903. So the bleachers in the Baker Bowl apparently collapsed in 1903. And on this night, the owners of the Phillies at the time, A.J. Reach and John Rogers, were formally acquitted. This bleacher collapse caused the death of 12 people and injured 232. I mean, really? I mean, I've seen some things in my life, right? The railing collapsing at the vet and the all the cadets spilling onto the turf of Veterans Stadium during the Army-Navy game. The thing in Landover at the Washington Redskins Stadium where people were falling onto the field. But I don't quite think I've ever witnessed, nor would I ever want to witness, a situation where the bleachers collapsed and 12 people were killed and 232 people were injured. But that's what happened on this day back in 1907, that the former owners of the Phillies, A.J. Reach and John Rogers, were formally acquitted for their role in any wrongdoing in the bleacher collapse at the Baker Bowl that killed 12 people and injured 232. I thought only those things happened in this day and age. I guess there was no social media available back in 1907. And yes, I can say that with surprise because, again, contrary to popular belief, I was not available, nor was I rolling around in 1907 to verify that. So there you go. Your day in Philadelphia sports history. The acquittal of the two former Phillies owners for any wrongdoing or criminal negligence in the Baker Bowl bleacher collapse that killed 12 and injured 232 back in 1903. Can't make this stuff up, man. And God rest in peace to 12 that were killed in that, because what a way to go. What a way to go. To die at a baseball game, watching the bleachers collapse, watching a Phillies game. Ugh. All right, so there you have it, your day in Philadelphia sports history. We don't shy away from any of the moments. Obscure, remorse, disgusting. We're not going to shy away, and we certainly will not tonight. So there you go, your day in Philadelphia sports history. All right, expectation versus reality, folks. That is the title of our show tonight, and I want to get into it. I want to open up the can of worms. What do I mean? Expectation versus reality. I think I am the best person that maybe really kind of run this thing down tonight. I have expectations. You have expectations for these sports teams. Every single season we have expectations. Like tonight, as I mentioned, the Flyers, who are playing against the Winnipeg Jets on the evening or the eve before the trade deadline. Now, the expectations from a certain amount of the fan base here in Philadelphia is that the Flyers are all in on making a run for the playoffs. But the reality of it is that an all-in run at the playoffs in 2025 just doesn't seem feasible with the long-range implications of this hockey team. Basically, there's just so many more things this team needs. And it's hard to temper those expectations with reality. It is. It's not easy to do. And we have a problem, probably the biggest problem with it here in this town. For even each side of the fans spectrum, the homer side and the pessimistic side, we both have our problems with expectation management. We share the same fate when it comes to that. The Flyers are testing our expectation versus reality metal. The Sixers are certainly testing that expectation versus reality metal. Now, the Eagles probably are the only team in town right now that we can say that have met the expectations. But here's also the double-edged sword with meeting expectations is those measuring sticks or those goals get pushed even further once you do meet those expectations, because we're not satisfied, and nor should we be in a town that's been deprived of championship glory as much as we have. So with the Eagles still fresh off of their Super Bowl 59 win, still feeling that vibe, that glow and of that win, the expectation now has turned to running a dynasty. Now, is the reality of that expectation feasible? And we're seeing kind of how this is starting to unfold right now. The Eagles have handed out 2 really big contracts to some internal pieces. Now they're taking a chance, but then again, taking a chance on Saquon Barkley and Zach Bond is a safer bet than taking a chance on unknown players coming in from the outside. So you gotta roll the dice in order to win. But the expectation of this team in 2025 is to come back out and win a Super Bowl. Now, we went down this road very similar back in 2018 when the Eagles came off of the Super Bowl 52 season. The expectation was for them to go out and run it right back, and we fell short. And I remember that dose of reality hitting me probably towards the middle part of the 2018 season when I realized that this team was not the same as 2017, and I had a hard time wrapping my head around that because we had the same people. Right? We had Carson Wentz back. Granted, he was a different type of quarterback at that point, but for the most part, it was the same team in 2018 that was playing versus the team that in 2017 that won a Super Bowl. So why were we having such a more difficult time in running it back? Because there's a lot of things that kind of play, right? I mean, there were some changes in the team. The NFL changed. There were some changes with the other teams in the league. There's some changes with how teams approach the Eagles in 2018 versus how they approached them in 2017. Things are never the same. So when you temper your expectations versus reality, it's a slippery slope. Now, the Eagles heading into 2025 have the city at a fever pitch when it comes to winning another Super Bowl, because another Super Bowl would potentially constitute the dawn of a Philadelphia Eagles dynasty, because even though they won back in Super Bowl 52 and Super Bowl 52, Super Bowl 59, Super Bowl 60, they're kind of spread out a little bit, but I would be willing to accept that as a dynasty type situation. Now, those expectations are rampant right now amongst both sides of the fan base. Now, people are going to try to not fool themselves, but they're going to try to talk themselves off the ledge by telling you that I don't expect the Eagles to go back out and win a Super Bowl. They're going to say that I don't feel that that's proper. And they're lying to themselves, and they're lying to you, because the expectation in 2025 is for the Philadelphia Eagles to win another championship. Simply put. So why else would you go and re-sign Saquon Barkley? Because the expectation of re-signing Saquon Barkley is to have another 2,500-yard season. Why would you go out and re-sign Zach Bond? Because the expectation is for Zach Bond to go out and win another, or have another all-pro like year. Now, those expectations, are they the reality, though? That's the slippery slope about all this. And that's what makes us fans, and that's what keeps us coming back, and that's what keeps us going forward every day when we root for these teams, because we want to see if the expectations are met by reality. And 9 times out of 10, though, in this town, it's not the case. So with the Eagles, their expectation is a little bit higher right now than anybody else's because of their recent success as Super Bowl champions. But does that change the Eagles? And does that take a certain amount of player to meet those expectations heading into next season? Do we have the mental toughness on this team to take it to another level? Because winning one Super Bowl is one thing. It's a great accomplishment. It's something that needs to be reveled in, enjoyed. You get the trophy, you get all what you're supposed to get. But now we're talking dynasty. Now we're talking repeating. Now we're talking three-peating. Now we're talking a different level of what this is. And are the Eagles that team? Are they equipped to win a second Super Bowl in a row, both physically and mentally? Do we have the right coaches, the right players? Are the conditions correct for us to go out and win another Super Bowl? Because you cannot deny a back-to-back. You can't. That's greatness. I hate to say it, but anybody essentially can get lucky and win one in a row. But going back and winning multiple Super Bowls is something different. It's something a lot harder. It definitely shows you that you are an elite football team. So as we get ready for 2025, the expectation of the Philadelphia Eagles is through the roof. Can the Eagles handle that? Now, the rest of the NFL is going to be gunning for them, as they should be. It's because that's how things are. When you're on the top of the mountain, people are coming to try and knock you off. They're going to get up and they're going to play the best football they can possibly against you week to week because they don't want you to win. They want to take what you got. Are the Eagles ready for that? So when it comes to expectation versus reality for the Eagles, it's on a different level. Now let's talk expectation and reality of the Phillies. As we get ready and get closer to the start of the 2025 season, the expectation of this team, and I talked to Big Al about this not too long ago, it was like last week or 2 weeks ago. I said, is 2025 a World Series or bust season? Have the Phillies done enough over the past 3 years to make you think that the expectation of this team is a World Series or bust? And Al said, yes, it's World Series or bust. I said, I don't know anymore. I don't. Last year, I was 100% on board. It was a World Series or bust 2024 for me. But heading into this season, my expectation of this team is different than it was last year because I've seen this team constantly over the last two seasons, last three, 22, 23, and 24, wilt under the pressure of trying to win a championship. So I'm not saying that they got the player, they don't have the players, they don't have the people, but they're missing something. Something is in between the ears or it's on the field, I don't know. But my expectation, and of course, these expectations are all personal. My expectations are different than your expectations, so on and so forth. But my expectations of the Phillies in 2025, based on what I've seen, I'm not prepared to say World Series or bust. Because I don't know if they can get to a World Series. I don't know if they can win one. So when it comes to the Phillies with their expectation versus reality, we can go both sides. And I've already told you what my expectation is. As far as what the outside looks seeing in, when you got the roster, the money, the players, the dynamic home run hitters, the ability that some of these guys have, the expectation is World Series or bust. This is a championship baseball team on paper. Unfortunately, you don't win championships on paper. So as the Phillies prepare for 2025, my expectation for them is I don't know. And that's sad because I already in years past, I had a clear idea of what this team was going to be 3 weeks out of the start of the regular season. So the expectation versus the reality for me for the Phillies is cloudy. It's very cloudy. Let's talk now about the about the Sixers. And this is probably one of the more clear-cut examples or clear-cut cases where expectations have definitely set up a fan base for some pain. Because the expectations of Joel Embiid, as he was assuming or ascending to the top of the NBA as a great player, and Ben Simmons at the time, and the buzz around this team 5 years ago, the expectation was championship. But that reality never manifested itself for whatever reason. The team never got past the second round of the playoffs, even during its peak. Even when they were a more complete team than even when they had JJ Redick out there just draining threes from all over the floor, a dominant young Ben Simmons, a dominant young Joel Embiid, they were never able to meet the expectations that were put upon them. And now, as the years have gone on, we've, I think, fooled ourselves into thinking that they can meet those expectations. And the reality was always there that they were just never a good enough team. And I would think that when you look at expectation versus reality and you look at the Sixers, it's a classic case of that letdown of expectation versus reality. And that is why being a sports fan, and you look at the Sixers and you can say that's why being a sports fan is so hard. because you see glimpses and glimmers of excellence. You see moments where they cannot be stopped, and then you're thinking, and you let your own imagination run away with you, thinking, this is it, man. We finally got the winning recipe. And then what happens is what happens with the Sixers. Complete and utter disaster. So when you're looking at expectation versus reality, the Sixers are a classic case study on how much that can hurt. And now that you're accepting, and that we as a fan base here in the city are accepting the reality of what the Sixers are. And I think a lot of us have come to grips with that reality maybe a couple years ago. But even the more homeristic of us have begun to accept, or have accepted, the reality that this team is poorly run, poorly managed, and poorly equipped. And it's time to go back to the drawing board. So expectation versus reality. And it's a tough thing. It's a tough pill for some to swallow. Joe, good. How are you tonight, my friend? Good to see you again, Joe. Join in the conversation, shall we? Expectations versus reality, Joe. That's what we're talking about tonight. We're talking about how those two things are two different things, but yet they're intertwined of being a sports fan. And in this town, a Philadelphia sports fan. So the last team I want to talk about with the expectation versus reality is, of course, the Flyers. And they are probably right now, with the eve of the trade deadline bearing down upon us, and the fact that right now, as we speak, I think it was 2-0 last time I checked. Let me bring up my phone here. It was 2-0 last time I checked. Now it's 4-0 about 6 minutes to go in the second period. Well, okay. There's some reality setting in here tonight. The expectation that the Philadelphia Flyers are a team that was in a position to make a playoff run in 2025, based on what happened last year, based on the fact that it's second year of a rebuild, is now, I think the reality is setting in that no, they're not ready, and they need to continue to add assets and build pieces and put people in positions to be better. But when you're in a situation like as the Flyer fan base is, and this is a situation that they've been in now for 2 years. Their moment of reality came 2 years ago when Danny B openly said, hey, no, we're rebuilding because we're a complete disaster. We're going to have to rebuild. Now, that, I think, when that moment came to a lot of Flyers fans, that was a moment of clarity, and that was a moment of reality. So expectation management with the Flyers was already kind of set in place 2 years ago. But as they've shown glimmers of excellence, and they've shown glimmers of good play over the past 2 seasons, and I mentioned last year being the 6th seed in the Eastern Conference heading into the trade deadline, and then dealing Sean Walker, who at the time was the glue that I guess held this team together, which is amazing to me, that him and Matt Niskanen. I mentioned the Sean Walker thing is like the Matt Niskanen thing. I don't know why certain players are able to project themselves so much on this team, but dealing away Sean Walker last year made absolutely no tactical sense other than building and creating assets for the future. So as it's 4-0 now, heading into the back half of the second period, and the Flyers are down to the Jets. So don't forget, after the Flyers game tonight, join us here on Clear the Ice, as we'll be here to kind of console you if this game doesn't turn out the way everybody thinks it will, and then maybe prepare you a little bit for the trade deadline tomorrow. So this could be the last night we see a few Flyers, and it's sad because there's some players that have put their time in here, never been properly rewarded, played for some bad teams, but now you got to look and maybe look and be happy for some of these guys who are going to get an opportunity tomorrow to make a Stanley Cup run with somebody else. So softening the blow of expectation versus reality definitely is helped by the management side of your team. When they come out and openly tell you we're rebuilding, and please understand what that means. Please understand that it's going to get worse before it gets better. Please understand what we're going to do, or what we're going to have to do to get to a certain point, and how much time that might have to take. Please understand that goes a long way in dealing with that reality. But when you're told from a management, i.e. the Sixers, who lied, constantly telling us everything is fine, Joel Embiid's fine, Paul George is fine, we got the right mix of players here, you feel doubly slapped in the face because you were lied to and the expectations weren't met. So it becomes very personal. And then in this Eagles case, when the expectations meet the reality, when it all comes together, it's a beautiful thing. It's one of the greatest things and one of the greatest feelings in the world. And again, that's why we're sports fans, because we want to feel that. We want to feel the expectation measure up with our reality, or our expectation measure up with the reality. And in this town, at least in my 50, almost 2 years on this planet, reality has never mirrored expectation with me that often, and with a lot of sports fans my age and older and younger. But of course, the Eagle fans of today and the younger ones of today have had a little bit of an easier road than I've had, and those older than me, because we went through some bad times. But they're suffering equally along with us, with the Flyers, Phillies, and the Sixers. So it's all kind of balanced itself out. But it's a beautiful thing when expectation meets the potential of reality. And the Eagles definitely made that happen. Now, but their expectation, as I mentioned, are now elevated to a certain level where it's time to look at dynasty, and it's time to look at what they're going to do moving forward. So expectation versus reality, a touchy subject, a cloudy subject, and a subject that keeps us moving as Philadelphia sports fans. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. That was more of a cathartic way to kind of do your night here. I wasn't, I'm not attacking the Eagles. I'm not attacking the Phillies. No, I'm going to start attacking them now, but I wanted to go philosophical on your ass here tonight as this show, because I got to thinking about it today, about expectation versus reality, and thought it was appropriate to talk about it. So let's change gears and let's head back to the Eagles. Again, now 48 hours removed from the big time contract offering of Saquon Barkley and Zach Bond, and I've heard some negative stuff about both the contracts, and there are some negativities here. Listen, it's a risk. It's a risk, I think, with Zach Bond more. I mean, the $51 million to me is a risk. It is. That's a lot of money to invest over 3 years. But I keep going back to that 3 years. I can accept 3 years. I definitely can live with 3 years because it's kind of fast, quick, and in a hurry. If it doesn't work out, I don't expect Zach Bond to fall off a cliff in 2025. Maybe he doesn't measure up to 2024 standards, but he's probably going to play well, right? I don't expect him to fall off a cliff. And then 2026, if he continues to decline, then you cut your losses in 2027. The contract that bothers me the most is the Saquon Barkley deal, because of what Saquon Barkley, again, I'm going back to expectation versus reality. The expectations of Saquon Barkley in 2025 are to mirror 2024, and I think that's unfair. I think that's unfair for everyone to expect that, and everyone's going to say, no, I don't expect Saquon Barkley to do that in 2025. There's no way he can. But deep down in reality, you think that's why he got the contract. There's been people saying, well, he got the contract as a reward for a great 2024. Well, I thought this was what you get the Super Bowl trophy for, and the ring. That's the reward. No, he got the contract extension because they feel that he, going forward over the next 4 years, is going to play at that level. And that's a heady expectation for a guy that's got a lot of miles on his tires. And Saquon does not get hurt often. He doesn't. But when he does get hurt, it's the big ones, right? It's the torn ACLs or the massive muscle tears. He never really misses time for the piddly pat stuff. But when he misses time, it's for the big ones. It's the big injuries that keep him sidelined. And over the course of the next 4 years, is there realistic expectations placed on Saquon Barkley to rush for 2,500 yards per season? Per season. And I think we're setting Saquon up for failure, folks. I really do. And I think the Eagles are misled by giving him that. There was no reason that contract extension had to be given. It was under control for the next 2 years. 3 if you count the franchise tag, which, again, I know the Eagles don't use. So I don't have necessarily problems or heartburn with the Zach Bond move. I don't. I think 3 years is okay. I know the money's up there. What's the most money that the Eagles have ever paid a linebacker in the history of the franchise? I get that. But 3 years, I keep going back to 3 years. I can live there. The bigger problem I have is with the Saquon contract. And is the reality that he's actually going to be playing 4 years from now for the Philadelphia Eagles? Or is the expectation still placed upon him to go out there and run until the tires completely fall off? And that might happen at some point in 2025. I mean, I really would like to know what everybody else is thinking when it comes to that and how you guys are feeling. Because I have more of a problem with the Saquon deal than I do with the Zach Bond deal. I don't think the Saquon deal was appropriate. It wasn't needed. There's other areas this team can address. Now, also, is the expectation now through Howie Roseman and the team and giving out those contracts internally, is the expectation now that free agency for the Eagles is going to be a purely internal type thing. He said in the combine that this offseason was not going to be a typical offseason, that things were going to run a little atypically. Does that mean that he is not going to go outside of the organization and try to bring in other players? Is he going to center his attention on signing internal assets? I mean, these are all questions that, well, we'll find out next week when the free agency begins. But expectation versus reality on Zach Bond versus Saquon Barkley. What are those? And as we get ready for the free agent period to begin, as other teams now, of course, are going to gear up, there's a risk here too, right? Again, we go back to the whole dynasty thing. Everyone's going to be geared up for the Eagles next year. Everyone's going to be coming at the Eagles. Everyone's going to, especially in the NFC East, in the NFC, they're going to try to model their team around what the Eagles did. They're going to go out and try to find free agents that will suit those purposes. And if the Eagles stand pat by signing their own players, which are proven players, proven Super Bowl champions, proven that they can get to that level, how is that reality going to look when the rest of the NFC is loading up? Commanders added Deebo Samuel. There's some players that are going to hit the open market here in the next couple of days that'll probably find their way into the NFC East at some point. Is the expectation that the Dallas Cowboys will not be a threat to the Eagles in 2025 with a healthy Dak Prescott? Probably. That's a misplaced expectation. Don't forget, there has not been a back-to-back NFC East champion since the 04-05 Eagles. So has Howie cast his die and said, this is what we're doing. We're doing it internally. And is that the right decision? And then the Myles Garrett thing is still kind of floating out there. Does Howie Roseman pull that off? I don't know. I don't see how he does. The rumors now that A.J. Brown might be on his way to potentially New England, that the Patriots are pressing the Eagles for a potential trade for A.J. Brown. A lot of great things coming down the pike, and a lot of great reality versus expectation. So the Eagles are, and the rest of the NFL are going to be in full swing here very soon with their free agency period, as the pieces are already starting to kind of come into play NFL-wise. So I can't wait for that. Let's go back to the Flyers a little bit. I think we kind of hammered the expectation versus reality. Let's get into some of our pre-programmed stuff. We're about half hour into the show, and that's about right. Because there's some things I definitely want to get into tonight about sports cards, because this is an interesting night that kind of took me by surprise. But first, before we do that, I do want to finish up what we started here a couple weeks ago, and that was revealing my Flyers all-time roster. Last night we finished up with the defenseman. It was the Watson brothers, who, again, just like the LCB line, played with each other in reality in life, but that's not what the parameters of this was. It was, for me, put together the best possible roster, mixing and matching players from all types of generations to put them on the right line. It just so happens to be the LCB line is probably the greatest line in Flyers history, and it was a real line, and they actually played together, so I kept them together, and they're my first line. Just like Jim and Joe Watson were real-life defensive pairings during those back-to-back Stanley Cup years, so I kept them where they were as well. But the rest of the lines and the D pairings were mixed and matched from generations of Flyers. And tonight we've gotten to the probably the worst the worst position, because we talked about this last night, that the Flyers, well, they're losing 4-0. Let me see what the score is now. Let's see. What do we got here? So it's still 4-0 in the second period intermission. 4-0 Flyers trail the Winnipeg Jets. Goaltending has been a bugaboo for this team since the mid-'80s. Let's face it, the Flyers have not been able to figure out. I've said this before, I think multiple times on Clear the Ice. How can teams, and I'll use the Rangers as an example, go from goalies like John Van Riesbroek to Mike Richter, to Lundqvist to Shizurkin? How can they go from one elite goaltender to the next seamlessly throughout their history, whereas the Flyers just can't seem to figure out the goalie piece? And it's been a problem. The lack of Stanley Cup championships with this team, there's been years where they've had it offensively and defensively, but they were lacking in the goaltending category. And of course, they went up against some great teams to oppose them. In the years that they were really good, having to go up against Edmonton and Detroit were probably not the best things to do. But if you kind of boil this thing down with the Flyers, you can kind of get to goaltending as a problem. You really can. It's a source of contention for a lot of Flyers fans. It's a source of frustration for a lot of Flyers fans that they just can't seem to figure out the goaltending situation. And here we sit in 2025 with the same problem. And that's probably the most frustrating part about it, is that there just doesn't seem to be an end in sight. Each year is the same thing. Well, we got prospects. We're developing. We're trying to bring certain players along. They went out in their past and they tried to trade for them. They tried to sign them. It just doesn't seem to work for this team year after year after generation after generation. They just can't seem to figure out the goaltending piece. And here we sit in 2025 on the light of the Carter Hart scandal, and losing that potential. I don't know if he was elite, but he definitely was good. But losing him put us right back down where we, have been sitting for the last 40 years, and that's in goaltending hell. But it wasn't always like that. If you go back to some of the more productive times in Flyers history, you had an elite goaltender standing in the net. And of course, tonight, as I select my 2 all-time Flyer goalies, these are 2 individuals that represented some of the more productive times in Flyer history. One, a proven Stanley Cup champion, 2-time Stanley Cup champion, and then the other snuffed out before I think his full potential was reached, but still deserving on this list because of how he played when he was here. So without further ado, let's bring him up here. And here you go. My all-time Flyer goalies, Bernie Parent and Pelle Lindbergh. Yes, I know the Ron Hextall people out there are going to give me crap, but you know what? Hextall was shaky at times, was great at other times. Other than that rookie year where he won the Vezina, I don't really know. I don't think he ever really quite measured up to that potential after that. But these 2 individuals, in every aspect of that, measured up to potential. Again, a 2-time Stanley Cup champion of Bernie Parent, who was part of the Flyers, left the Flyers, came back, and led them to 2 Stanley Cup championships. And then, of course, Pelle Lindbergh, who I maintain this, and I'll say it till my deathbed. I had the privilege of watching Pelle play. All right. And not only did I watch him play as a Flyer, I remember him playing in the '80 Olympics. I do. And I honestly believe if the tragedy or the death had not occurred, he would have been one of the best goaltenders ever to play this game in the National Hockey League. He was trending in that direction. He was setting records with shutouts. He was setting records with wins. He was on his way of taking the Flyers to different heights. In '84-'85, the Flyers went to the Stanley Cup Finals basically because of what Pelle Lindbergh was able to do for them. They ran up against Edmonton, and of course, you know the rest. It just seems to be a curse when it comes to goaltending in this city. And I think it started with Pelle. I honestly do. Because we had a recipe in the mid-'80s to turn this thing back into another dynasty with the Flyers. And he was part of that. And after we lost him, we just never seemed to have been able to kind of get our footing when it comes to goalies. So I truly believe that. What's up, man? How did the umpire games go? They went well, Adam. Had fun. Had some family issues. I had to return home a little earlier than expected, but I enjoyed myself. What did I worked with 18 teams. I did 16 perfect games, and I did 2 Alabama high school games. Worked with 18 teams, 47 Division I committed players I saw in the course of 3 weeks. 31 of the top 100 high school baseball players in America I umpired, and 54 potential 2025 MLB draft players I worked with over those 3 weekends. So I had a great time, Adam. Thank you for asking. But back to what we're talking about. Bernie Perrant, in his time with the Flyers, NHL-wise, 608 games played, 271 wins, 198 losses. Finished with a career 2.55 goals against average, must set ERA, goals against average, and a .915 save percentage. Just an amazing 55 shutouts. Just an amazing career. 2-time Stanley Cup champion. Probably the best goaltender in Flyer history. And he had the body of work to prove it. 2 stints with the Flyers, 67 through 71, and then returned in 72 through 79 with the Flyers as he was catalyst of those 2 Stanley Cup champions. And of course, Mr. Pelle Lindbergh cut down early in his life in that tragic car accident. Finished with a 3.30 I said it again, goals against average and 8.86 save percentage. Shutout wise, he was, where's that? Finished with 7 shutouts, 87 wins, 49 losses, 157 games played. And I'm telling you, he was on his way, man. He was on his way. Just 3 seasons with the Flyers before he died tragically in 1985. So I'm going with some of Pelle's accolades on top of, he was a bronze medalist in 80 with Sweden. He was a bronze medalist in 79 in the World Championships, and he was a silver medalist in the World Junior Championships against Canada. So a career that was cut short violently in that accident, and really thought he was definitely on his way to being something in the NHL. And I think when it was all said and done with, we would have been talking about him as one of the greatest in the league. So there you have it. There's my all-time goalies. Bernie Perrant is going to be my starter, and I have Pelle Lindbergh coming off the bench for him because that's what we do. And that leads me now to just the coaches. I will reveal or not the coaches. I'm not going to give you a coaching staff. I will give you the coaches next week on Sunday when we wrap this up. So I will have, over the course of the last month and a half, provided you my all-time Phillies roster and my all-time Flyers roster. So my work is done. It was fun, though. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it 100%. So let's get into the of the night topic or of the night segment and roll the music. All right, the other night segment tonight. Last night we did the very rarely seen trifecta where we went through all 3 levels of the night. Tonight we're doing the same thing. We're going back to the trifecta. We're doing Flyer prospect, Philly spotlight player, and MLB draft prospect. One of these nights I'm going to go for the 4 for 4, man. I'm going to do the NHL draft as well. So, but tonight we're staying in the trifecta. Let's start with our Flyer prospect. We only have, after I do this guy, I only have 2 more left of Flyer prospects, and I would have ran through the Flyer prospects completely this season. Ty Murchison is your Flyer prospect tonight. He is the left-hand defenseman from Arizona State, currently plays for the Sun Devils out there in the NCAA. 6'2", love that, 205 pounds, drafted in the 5th round of the 2021 NHL draft. Murchison's 2 defining skills are skating and physicality. Loving that. Whether he's skating back on a retrieval or closing space, he's always looking to use contact to get the puck on his stick. That is something we need. Now, Murchison is a senior. He will more than likely be entering into the Flyer fold at some point this summer. Expect to see him at camp. Now, a 5th round pick, obviously, is a little bit of a reach, but He's played out his complete eligibility at Arizona State and will now probably join the Flyers in the spring. You might see him actually here in a couple of weeks once the Frozen Four ends and once these hockey seasons wrap up with the college teams. So Ty Murchison is on his way. He's going to be one of the players I think we're talking about next year, specifically with the Phantoms. But he's part of that new crop of player that the Flyers are finally going to get a chance to see. Obviously, a left-handed defenseman. You know, you want those right-handies, but I like the fact that he's a physical guy. It's to me, he's more of a defenseman, even though in this day and age, every defenseman is an offensive defenseman, but he has an edge to him that he can play very physical. So Ty Murchison is your Flyer prospect of the night. And let's now move on to your Philly spotlight. And actually, let's go to MLB draft target for tonight. It's Cam Canarella. Cam Canarella, the outfielder for Clemson. Who named this kid, man? Jesus Christ. One of the best hitters and center field defenders in the draft. Canarella his slash line of 337, 417, 561 with 11 homers as a sophomore while playing with a torn labrum in his right throwing shoulder that required surgery in July. Cam is a projected top 5 pick in this year's MLB draft. Again, very relative. Those things can change throughout the season, but he is right now looked at around the 5th pick, top 5, potentially top 10. Nothing lower than top 10. I would definitely see this kid going, but definitely got a little bit of an edge to him as well. He's got some power, some speed, and he kind of looks like that, prototypical 21st century center fielder. I like his power, but I also like his ability to hit all fields. 11 homers in Division I in Clemson, in the ACC. That's not easy to do, especially for a center fielder. So, and he's got definitely a good defensive mind about him. We can always use a good center fielder here in this town. So I would definitely take a flyer on him if available at 26. I doubt he's going to be there at 26 when the Phillies pick, but if he is, Cam Canarella would be my pick. But I expect him to go at least top 5. So there you go. Got my Flyers prospect out the way. I got my MLB draft target out the way, and that leaves me with our Phillies spotlight player of the night. Very special player for me with the Phillies. A player that I've been waiting patiently to talk about. A player that I feel holds a lot of the Phillies' success or failure in his hands in 2025. And that player is, and it might be surprising to some people, but that player to me is Orion Kerkering. Yeah, that's right. You heard it. Orion friggin' Kerkering. Right-hander. Appeared in 64 games for the Phillies last year. 2.29 ERA, 74 strikeouts, 17 walks, and the most glaring stat right there. No saves. This is the problem, folks. Now, I'm not with Kerkering on a day-to-day basis. Obviously, we know the story. Came out of nowhere, went from high A in 2022 or 2023. Went from high A all the way up to the majors and found himself pitching in the NLCS in 2023. Amazing story, right? Came back last year, and we kept on saying about how that experience will be pivotal. What he went through in 2023 is going to help him as a player going forward. I agree with that statement. He's got electric stuff. He's got high velocity with movement, and you can't really ask for much more than that. But look at the 0 saves. That, to me, is criminal. That, to me, is mismanagement. That, to me, and again, I'm not around this kid every day, so maybe there's something more to that. Maybe that Rob Thompson felt that he didn't have it between the ears to be a closer. Again, Rob Thompson also doesn't employ a traditional bullpen. And I think that's one of the case, or this player right here, Kerkering, is one of the situations where that not employing a traditional bullpen hurts the player. I'm telling you, we're not talking about it as much anymore as we used to, and it seems like I'm the only one these days bringing it up. But the non-traditional bullpen, the bullpen without roles, is crucial, and it's killer. It sucks. and it hurts your bullpen. And Ryan Kerkering is one of those players, if used properly. And I don't know if that's as the closer. I don't. He has closer stuff. He has it. But if we employed Kerkering as the closer, could he be the key that unlocks all this? Could he be the stability in the back end of that bullpen? I think he can be. But I don't need to see Kerkering in the 6th inning. I don't need to see him in the 7th inning. I also don't need to see him in the 8th inning unless he's going to pitch both the 8th and 9th inning. This kid is a closer, and he's not been given the opportunity here for whatever reason. I wish I knew the reason. There's been times last year where he looked a little rattled. His velocity was down a little bit at times, but he's never been given an opportunity to get comfortable in the back end of that bullpen or anywhere in that bullpen at all. I honestly believe if you can find a place for Kerkering, if he can get comfortable in that bullpen, he's got closer stuff written all over him. And he could be the key that unlocks all this. But does Rob Thompson allow him to do that? Does Rob Thompson's untraditional bullpen allow him to do that? Or is it hurting a pitcher like Kerkering in his development and maturation process? Because this is what I fear. Is Kerkering's going to kick around here for a couple of years, eventually get traded as some sort of trade deadline move, go somewhere, become a closer somewhere, and close 50 games a season for somebody. Because he's got that kind of stuff. But he's being misused by the Phillies. And if the Phillies can find a way to use him correctly, he could be the key to the pitching in 2025. Or he could be the key to the bullpen in 2025. So I have big expectations versus reality for Ryan Kerkering in 2025. Can Rob Thompson employ him correctly? We'll have to wait and see. But I think he's huge. I think he's really huge. And I think he's a diamond that we found. And I think he needs to be used as the closer. That he's a closer. He's got closer stuff. He's always had closer stuff. Whether or not he's got it between the ears, I don't know. Maybe that's the problem. But I don't think it is. I think it's because Rob Thompson does not use that traditional bullpen. And why aren't we talking about that anymore? Why am I the only one, it seems, screaming from the wilderness? Why are you not using a regular bullpen? I have not heard that brought up one time this spring. I have not heard that conversation brought up at all when Rob Thompson has babbled his way through the press. Are you going to use a traditional bullpen in 2025? We'll see. Oh, man. I love it when they had 7th inning guy, 8th inning setup guy, and the 9th inning closer. We should go back to it. Adam, you're talking like it's like a museum. Yes, of course. You should never tinker with the bullpen. If you want to mess around with your short relievers or your long guys, your middle guys, that's fine. But there needs to be a set amount of guys, 4 of them usually, 3 to 4, that are your 7th, 8th, and 9th inning guys. Boom. And I don't mean like you can pitch in the 9th inning or today and tomorrow you're going to pitch it. No, I mean you're the 7th inning guy. You're the bridge, right, to the back end. You're the setup guy and you're the closer. The Phillies have those pitchers in the current bullpen. They do. But this nonsense of analytics and lefty versus righty and then this matchup makes more sense. That's not how pitchers don't prepare themselves that way. And the game of baseball, you can change it as much as you want, but the game of baseball has not changed that much. I mean, I am going to make a point of it this season, and I say it every year, but this year I'm going to do it. I am going to track traditional bullpens versus non-traditional bullpens, and I want to see how they come out. And yes, there's a way to do that, and of course, I've already done the research on how to do it because I want to see if it's really changing that much. Because there's more than half the teams in the MLB still use a traditional bullpen. It's only there's only like a handful of teams that don't have a traditional bullpen. And it's still a thing. How many teams actually? More than you think, Adam. More than half. Right? Now, I know pitchers are trained differently, and I know, again, the analytics really mess things up here. But I don't care if no one uses a traditional bullpen anymore. That doesn't mean it doesn't work. It means we're looking at this thing from a different angle. So I'm telling you, like a pitcher like Kirkering, if you can put him and say, Orion, you are it, man. You are the closer. I want you to mentally understand that every day that you come to work, you got to prepare yourself to close. Not prepare yourself to be in the 7th inning or be in the 8th inning or not know when you're coming in. But no, you're the closer. And if we're in a situation where we're not involved in a game that I need you to close, pitching today. If they told him that and they let him go with that, I'm telling you, man, you might unlock the next, I'm not going to say the next Rivera, but, you might have something on your hands here because the kid can throw, he can straight up throw. Upwards 98, 99 miles an hour with friggin' movement. I'm telling you, the Phillies have something here if they can properly use it. So I hope they do. I hope the Phillies find a way to, and I don't know. I keep saying I hope they do. Rob Thompson's not going to change. This guy's a buffoon. He's not going to change. But there you go. There is my of the night segment, and that's going to take us right almost to the end. We have one more. I have one more segment or one more thing to bitch about before we get to the card review. And not really bitch about it, but a story to talk about. Do you guys remember? It's about sports cards, right? And it's appropriate. We're at the back end of the show, and we have our card review left. So prior to doing the card review, I want to remind people out there, if you guys remember this, a couple months ago, I talked about this story. Sports cards in general. It's a big business. We know that in America. It's huge. Paul Skeens, right? Paul Skeens, the phenom pitcher from the Pittsburgh Pirates. We all know who that is, correct? The kid who went to the Air Force Academy, hit the transfer portal after their second year, went to LSU, finished out his career, was taken, the 3rd overall pick in 2023 by the Pirates, spent the back end of the 23 seasons in the Pirates minor league system, then spent literally a month last year in the minor leagues before debuting in May, and pitched his ass off. Won Rookie of the Year. Well, Topps. We all know who Topps is, right? The king of baseball cards. They have a deal every season where they provide, at some point throughout the year, they choose a group of rookie players that they feel that could be potentially game changers in this league. And they give them a patch to wear on their uniform called the MLB debut patch. It's this little patch. Matter of fact, I'm not going to pull that up yet, but it's a little patch that goes on their uniform. And they wear it for one game on their uniform. And then after that game, they take the jersey, they cut the patch out. And then later on in the season, they put that patch in a card along with an autograph. And they usually make it a 1-of-1, or they serialize the card, so it's really valuable. And then they put it in a pack, and kids go looking for it. Well, Paul Skeens, if you remember this story from back in the fall, in the Topps Chrome Update series, which was the second to last series of cards that Topps put out in 2024, the last series being the holiday series in November, released all their rookie debut cards. There was probably, I think, 25 of them. No, it was like 250 of them. 250 of these cards from 250 various players that hit the open market. Now, the Paul Skeens card was the auto with an autograph, the relic, and a 1-of-1. It was a 1-of-1 card. And it set the sports card market on fire when people heard about this card. The Pittsburgh Pirates were so enamored by somebody finding this card that they put out a bounty on the card. They said, anybody that comes forward, who opens up this card, who gets this card, if you come forward, we will provide you 30 years of season tickets behind home plate. You give you a meet and greet with Paul Skeens, have you sit in his girlfriend's booth with him one night, give him a whole bunch of swag, signed swag by Paul Skeens. All you got to do is turn over the card when you find it. And then crickets. And then the rush began to try to find these cards, right? Well, apparently what happened was on Black Friday, a husband and wife, bought a box of Topps Chrome Update series cards for their 11-year-old son as part of his Christmas present. On Christmas morning, as he was opening up his presents and he got to the cards, he started to open up the cards. On the 5th pack inside this box, he found the Paul Skeens, the most coveted card in the history of baseball cards was found on Christmas morning. It was reported by the end of January that it had been found. Pirates came forward, offered him the bounty. He said no. A private collector came forward and offered him a price. The parents said no. Tonight, as we speak, it started at 7 p.m. on the Fanatics Premier auction site. That card has gone up for auction, and it'll be up until March 20th. Estimates have this card going in the 7-figure range. And I'm just going to update you because I've been tracking it since it hit the open auction market. So it's been on auction since 7 p.m. tonight. So 2 hours and 1 minute. So far, the auction began, the bidding began at $1,000. So far, 45 bids have been placed on this card, and the value or the price is up to $150,000. 2 hours after it hits auction. Absolutely amazing. This card could generate, they're saying, up to seven figures. Auction will be over on March 20th. And this is the card everybody's going wild over. There it is right now. Now, this is the actual card that was found by the kid on Christmas morning. The parents sent it in the PSA, and of course it graded out as a 10. Of course it did, a 101. And this is the card that is currently sitting in auction right now. Now, you'll see it. There's the MLB debut patch right here. It's right there on his uniform, right above the Pirate, right there. He wore it there for one game, then they cut it out and they put it in this card. Other players had the same thing happen to them last year. Some of the players of note that debuted with the patch card last year. Let me see. I have their names right here. Masson Wynn, Junior Camaro, Jackson Howard or Jackson Churro, Jackson Holiday in 2023 were his, Anthony Volpe in 2023. So this is a big thing. Yamamoto, Evan Carter, Jackson Merle. These were also players that did the debut patch. Matter of fact, Evan Carter, Yamamoto, and Merle, their cards have yet to be found. So they're still floating around out there. But the Paul Skeens was the Mount Rushmore. And it is currently on auction right now. Let's look at it again. 2 hours and 3 minutes, 45 bids, $150,000 is what the bidding is up to right now for this baseball card. And it will stay on auction until March 20th. So if you're looking to set the world on fire and you want to get into the sports trading card business and you got probably about, I don't know, a couple $100,000 to burn, head over there and put a bid on Paul Skeens. I expect the bidding to get fast and furious right at the end. And if it's up to $150,000 right now, what's it going to be up by March 20th? Just absolutely amazing stuff. Some notable players from this year that might be sporting the MLB debut card or patch. Roki Sasaki, the Dodgers phenom. Roman Anthony from the Red Sox. Walker Jenkins, he may find his way to MLB. Dylan Cruz of the Nationals will probably be wearing it. Jackson Jobe from the Tigers. Andrew Painter might at one point be given the honor to wear an MLB debut patch this year if it works out that way. But it's pretty cool stuff. The series of cards. So when Topps does this every year, they release at a minimum the following series of cards. Series 1, which are out now. The 2025 Series 1 cards are out now. 2025 Series 2 come out later this summer. Then they do the Chrome, which come out right after Series 2. Then they do the Chrome Update Series, which is where that Paul Skeens card was, and that came out in the fall. And then they do their holiday set, which comes out right before Christmas. So that's in a nutshell how Topps releases cards every year. So it's about 5 or 6 sets of different cards, and each set has all kinds of like parallels and gimmicks right now. But Series 1 is out right now, and Series 2 won't come out till probably around July or August because they got to let these players to kind of figure out who's going to be added into Series 2. But just wanted to bring that up, a little Paul Skeens baseball card knowledge to you right now. Currently on auction on the Fanatics Collect auction site 45 bids and $150,000. Just slightly over 2 hours sitting on the auction block, and it'll be on auction till March 20th. So again, if you're looking to set the sports card world ablaze, head over there now and put a bid on that card. It is this one right here. Here it is. The holy grail of sports cards in 2024. Paul Skeens. Rookie debut, auto, 1 of 1. There you go. Now it's going to take us to our card of the night segment, our review segment, and let's do it.
Looks a little something like this. Looks a little bit like I can't miss. Hey, this is what you call a bad. What? This is what you call a bad. What? Looks a little something like this. Looks a little bit like I can't miss. Hey, this is what you call a bad. What? This is what you call a bad.
Yeah, this is our card review segment. This is the type of show where we take one of my cards from my collection and we just kind of talk about it and discuss some of the financial value or some of the nostalgic value, all those good things, and just have some fun with it. Tonight's card is the Paul Skeens. Now, I wish I was sitting on that thing. Can you imagine? 11 years old. First of all, let's put ourselves as adults into this situation. You buy a box of cards for your kid on Black Friday in late November to give to him in Christmas. Knowing that there's a chance in that box was the Paul Skeens, because it was all over the place. Everybody knew it. Everybody knew the hunt was on. So you get through Christmas, you spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on Christmas, right? You go in debt for Christmas to give your kid a good Christmas. Now, I don't know the family dynamic. I don't know how many siblings the kid had or if the parents were still together. I don't know any of that stuff, but it's stressful. It's stressful for even the normal families. You sit down on Christmas morning. As he's opening up his presents, he stumbles upon this card. Life-changing. Talk about a Christmas present. Now, I know Dad. Now, I don't know Dad, but I know if I was Dad, I would be freaking out, man. I'd be like, first of all, drop the card right now. Place it on the ground and step away from it. I am taking control of this card right now. It is a game changer, man. It's a life-altering experience to find that baseball card. And to find it on Christmas morning, to find it, sitting around the Christmas tree with wrapping paper everywhere, get the visual going. Just how cool that was for that whole family. It was a Christmas present for everybody. A life-altering, a life-changing event. Now, Paul Skeens next year could fall off the cliff and be nothing. I do not doubt the fact, and I do not criticize the family for doing what they're doing right now. They're taking advantage of a situation. The hell with 30 years of season tickets from the Pittsburgh Pirates. Who the hell wants to do that? Now, I would take them potentially and sell them every game, because I would never go to a Pirates game unless I was, the Phillies were playing them or whatever. And I don't know when I'd find myself in Pittsburgh. And the kid wasn't from Pittsburgh. I think he was from Texas. But can you imagine the life-altering moment that was for that family? On Christmas morning of all days. Just a great story, man. It's really cool. It's a very cool story. Tonight's card review on this program is a not Paul Skeens. We're staying in baseball, and we're going way back to the year of 1995. This is a rookie card. This is not even a MLB card. This was one of the first years that Topps. Actually, it's not even a Topps card. This is a what is this? This is a this was an actual. Who is this? Yeah, this is kind of like one of those signature rookies is what the brand of card is. This was the year that they just did this year. Now, this is before Topps got into the game of doing college baseball cards. Now, Mark McGwire, his Team USA card from back 1986, I believe it was, or 84. That was probably all that Topps would do when it came to like college cards. They didn't start getting into that game, and they're really not into it that much today. Every now and again, they'll do a gimmick where they'll do college cards. But college baseball cards are not really a big thing in this country. They never really caught on. Now, the college football thing is definitely caught on. But as far as college baseball goes, it hasn't caught on. But this year in 95, they did a set of cards. And tonight's card is a 1995 Aaron Boone. That's right. The manager of the Yankees, the former player of the Yankees, the son of Philly's great Bob Boone. This is his card when he was with USC. Now, in this physical form, this card is worth nothing. It's like a $2 card. But I have an autographed version of this card. I have a card that was signed by Aaron Boone personally. It was my stepson had gotten this card signed by Aaron Boone. Now, this was given away at the event that Aaron Boone was at. He had a whole stack of these cards, and he was just signing them and handing them over. So they're kind of flooded the market a little bit right now with them. If you look around on databases or on eBay, places like that, you'll see the auto version of this card floating around. Even as an auto, this card's worth about $40. Maybe you can squeeze $40 out of a collector who loves the Yankees. Aaron Boone was nothing really to shout out as a player. Very modest career in MLB. Played for the Reds, Yankees, Indians, Marlins, Nationals, and Astros before hanging it up in 2009. Of course, since 2018 has been the manager of the Yankees, and was an all-star, though, in 2003. His only year with the Yankees. And, of course, that was also capped off by his Game 7 walk-off in the ALCS against Boston that year. So, but other than that, I mean, a pretty pedestrian career. Batted .263, 126 home runs, and 555 RBIs. Not a terrible career, but nothing really to shake a stick at. But obviously his career as a manager with a very high-profile team like the Yankees has led his popularity and made him a more popular name than I guess he probably deserves. And this is the card right here. As you can see it, there's the auto version. It's actual Aaron Boone's signature. So as an auto or an autograph card, this card's worth about $40, but not autographed, $5, maybe $3. But there you go. It's always good to have an auto, especially meeting the player. Again, my stepson was there. I wasn't there. It was in Cooperstown years ago. He saw him, and he got the signature. So there you have it. Tonight's card review. The autographed Aaron Boone 1995 rookie signatures when he was a USC Trojan. So there you have it. There's your card review segment of the night, and capping it off with that. Great show tonight. Thank you for everybody for your participation. We talked about expectation versus reality. We gave an overview of expectation versus reality when it comes to being a sports fan, and specifically a Philadelphia sports fan. And then we talked specifically each team, their expectations versus their reality. Went over to some little bit of Flyers, little bit, not much, because I'm going to let Sal have at it right after the Winnipeg Jet game tonight. Following the game, Clear the Ice will be on this program. So we didn't really get into much about the Flyers. It is draft eve, or draft. It's trade deadline eve in the NHL, so the Flyers could look a little differently at this time tomorrow night. We went over the we did our other night segment. We did the trifecta again, and then of course we talked Paul Skeens and the Mount Rushmore 1-of-1 rookie auto relic card that is currently sitting on the Fanatics Collect auction site. Has gotten 45 bids since 7 p.m. and is up to now $150,000. That card will be sitting on the auction site until March 20th, and then it will be closed. And 7 figures is what the projected amount that this card could go for. It could go for the most money ever of a sports card in America. Mickey Mantle, 52 Mantle, is the #1 card right now. Skeens has got a chance to break that record, which is amazing after 1 year in the league. So good. We kind of went through those. Adam says, great show. Thank you, Adam. I appreciate your participation. As always, anybody's participation. And then again, we just did our card review. So a great week, a weird week that started in Alabama that ends here. I had a great time in Alabama. I've already thanked the people down there in kind for a great week, or a great 3 weeks. Little family issues came up, so I had to come home. But I do not regret my decision to go down, and I probably will be looking at returning next year for some more college this time. I want to work more college games next year, but I had an opportunity working with some high-level talent throughout the last 3 weeks, so I definitely love that. I got my own school season to get ready for up here, so that starts in April. Baseball is just kicking off for me too, and I had a great week. So we will talk again on Sunday. I will be back on Sunday for our regularly scheduled programming time. Don't forget, here on the It's a Wrap Sports Network, the Fighting's Final, the Philadelphia Phillies 2025 season preview show is coming. We're narrowing down a date and a time. So be on the lookout for that. We also finished up our Flyers all-time roster. Next Sunday, we'll talk about the coach and maybe throw out another little fun thing to do. So until we talk again, folks, don't forget, we got Clear the Ice coming at you right after the Flyers game. Then we got Clear the Ice on Saturday. I'll be back on Sunday. Clear the Ice will be Sunday as well. And we are growing as a network. 2 more shows are being added to the stable here very soon. So be on the lookout for that. And can't wait for that. So until we talk again, you guys have a great rest of your night, a great day tomorrow, and have a great weekend, everybody. We'll see you on Sunday.
Devil, I'm the DE, I'm the DEBI, I'm the DE, I'm the DE.